everybody. Welcome to Side Project, our little foray into all the hell that is middle age. But this time, we actually are going to have a slightly different conversation because we're going to talk about longevity and how middle age can really be a launching point for all types of different things. So, as usual, I'm joined by one of my podcast co-hosts, my friend Julie. Julie, how are you?
I'm good, Layla. How's your menopause, perimenopause going? I
I'm
feel like
squarely in menopause. You
okay.
perimenopause people are way behind me.
I was gonna
I'm
say
I'm in
it's
it. I'm in it.
In it.
it's so funny how part of the genesis of this whole podcast was when we all got together. We were like, what is everyone in our world talking about? And that sort of has been the thrust of this. And it's all these topics circling around perimenopause, menopause. And I think part of what's interesting is we've talked about no one really prepares you for it. I mean, we hadn't even heard the word perimenopause until a few years ago. And it's like nobody prepared us for this next phase. But what I'm excited about today is we'll talk about this next phase. But once again, there's another phase after, which is what comes next and how do we live longer, which is probably something we should be talking about.
So we have with us, even though she just told me she never thinks of herself this way, the queen of menopause.
The face again. I think it's the face of menopause.
The face of menopause. And
with the
all that it
wrinkles and the
So
Although
we have
it's
with
funny,
us
like
Joanna Strober.
isn't something we've learned like menopause is just a moment. There's peri and there's post.
And then there's
just sort of
everything
like
else.
Yes.
Right.
So
Exactly.
Joanna started a company on this. Julie, you want to give the rundown about MIDI?
Absolutely. I'm a happy MIDI customer.
Yay.
So Joanna Strober, I would show my patch. I'm actually
Yay,
gonna ask
exactly.
I'm going to ask you about patch hygiene and how I can get it looking a little better by day 3. But we are sitting here today with Joanna Strober, who is the co-founder and CEO of MIDI Health, which is a virtual care platform for women in menopause and perimenopause. The company brings expert care, which is covered by at least my insurance and many others, to women nationwide. She has an extensive history in tech, private equity, venture capital focused on health. And she's the author of the book, Getting to 50-50, a primer on how women can succeed and thrive at work and at home, which sounds like something I definitely need to read. Welcome, Joanna.
Yay.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
We are too. So why don't you start? So Julie just gave kind of the headline on MIDI, but why don't you give us a little bit of like, what is MIDI? How'd you get into doing this? And why are you changing everybody's life so that we're all a lot nicer to our husbands and have a lot more calm, free time, which is
MIDI 101. Julie, I was at a party this weekend and a guy came up to me and he said, "You saved my marriage." And it was really, I didn't know who he was. I never met him before. He's like, "You really saved my marriage." And his wife comes up and gives him a hug. She's like, "Yeah, I was driving him crazy." And she said, "I was so angry all the time and I wasn't sleeping and I'd gained weight and my life was really bad and I was taking it out on my husband."
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is I'd be even worse if I wasn't, that's what I should.
Yeah.
I should.
So, but this happens a lot, literally all the time. People are like, "You kind of saved my marriage. You saved my relationship with my kids. You let me go back to work." So what is MIDI? I mean, MIDI is a national virtual care company focused on women 35 and up for all the shit. And there's a lot of shit, right? So like when you think about menopause, as you said, it's like old ladies, right? Gray hair, like that's our image. And yet perimenopause starts in our 30s. And so it's basically estrogen fluctuations, and those estrogen fluctuations, as they're going down, impact every part of our body. So it impacts our brains, it impacts our hearts, it impacts how we, are able to deal in the world, quite honestly. It makes it so sex is not as good anymore. Like it really impacts everything in our life. And historically, menopause has been only treated when you get to menopause after 50X, right? But perimenopause is the big thing here. And so there's so much that women need to start doing in their 30s and 40s and 50s to stay strong and to basically help their symptoms and stay strong. And so what we realized is that we had an opportunity to basically build out this expertise, build a national care clinic to take care of all of these symptoms and make sure that women get the right care. And It doesn't have to be hormones. It can be hormones, the patch that we're all talking about, but people come to us for non-hormonal medications. They come to us for supplements. They come to us for lifestyle. Like, it doesn't have to be a hormone, but it's the hormonal change that we're managing. And then there's lots of ways to fix that.
It's amazing. And I mean, Julie's a customer. I'm an investor. We all clearly are hot on your tail and huge fans of what you're doing. I mean, when you, so like, what, how does it work? Like, so I'm in, like, do I just sign up and like,
it's that easy, Layla? You just sign up, you book a visit. All you have to do is go to our website, check that we provide your insurance. If you want to do insurance covered care, if you pay if you want cash because you don't have insurance, you can do that too. 90% of women pay insurance. We take their insurance. They book a visit with us. They come to a call like this. It's a 30-minute call. We learn all about your health. We learn all about your preventive health too. Have you had your colonoscopy, and you had your mammogram, and have you had your shingles vaccine? And then we also talk to you about what are your symptoms. And then we'll talk to you about what medications you want to try first. And I say first because this is an iterative process. It's not wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, nor is it a vending machine. This is an iteration, and we basically will iterate with you. So we're going to try a patch and progesterone if you have a uterus, and then you'll come back and say, you know what, I'm kind of sleeping better, but not enough. Can you give me a stronger patch? Or, you know, I'm sleeping, but I'm still not having enough energy, and we'll give you more progesterone. Or like, we iterate with you. And it's very much an iterative process. And then maybe you'll come back 6 months later and say, you know what, I'm actually feeling really good, but I'm worried about my skin and my hair is kind of falling out or getting thin. Can you help me with that? So my job is to be with you for 20 years and to help you to manage all these things that are happening in your body.
By the way, Joanna, I think you just described my first 2 appointments with Mitty. So I'm a little concerned you looked at my private files, because that's like literally what I went through. I do have to say to you, thank you. I'm just going to thank you personally. I haven't slept like this in like longer than just perimenopause, like 20 years. Weird side effect. I'm having strange dreams, but I think it's just because my body has not slept deeply enough to have dreams. So I'm working through a lot of stuff right now overnight, but I sleep through the night, which is just not something that happened before. But I did have an interesting experience, which is after I did a couple of MIDI visits, and then I visited a primary care doctor to, kind of do everything else in person. They were like, "Oh, hormones, we gotta get you in for that mammogram so fast," so I know there's a lot of like stigma and sort of old data out there about the risks and stuff like that. Like, how does MIDI and how do you think about sort of the changing attitudes on how we intervene with perimenopause, menopause?
Yeah. So look, the opportunity for MIDI is in large part because of the last 25 years of wrong information about hormones and about the intersection between hormone replacement therapy and breast cancer. So honestly, the crazy thing is that study has created the opportunity because doctors for the last 25 years have not been trained on hormones. And that study, which now they have 25 years more of data, was absolutely, wrong. It was wrong. The women who were on the estrogen only arm in the study had a decreased risk of breast cancer, not an increased risk. So there's a book called Estrogen Matters, which is phenomenal. If anyone is worried about this, I strongly suggest reading it. It's by Avram Blooming. He explains all of this. Honestly, it's also a new member of the president administration who wrote a book called Blind Spots. And he actually in that book says that there's 4 of the worst things that have happened in American society in medicine, and that hormone therapy is one of those 4. And he really goes into it in depth and how poorly women have been misled and mistreated around hormones and menopause. So the truth is, should you have a mammogram? Absolutely.
Yes, I was going to say, we should. We should do that no matter what.
I am not saying that you should not have a mammogram. You should have a mammogram every year. Absolutely. But it is not because your hormone therapy is putting you at higher risk for breast cancer.
Right. And honestly, hormone therapy is often one of the things that helps to more increase longevity in women as they age, right? So I know you've been writing a lot about this right now, Joanna, and I mean I'd love to get your take on. I mean, obviously there's medical and all this, but like clearly there's something here. Can you kind of give us? You're the expert. Like what are you seeing, and how is this sort of playing out?
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because longevity makes it sound like people want to live longer. But so I kind of joke this is about strongevity,
Hmm.
which is, staying stronger longer, not necessarily living longer. But, also I would say the longevity industry has historically very focused on men who wanted to live till 150, right? But what I have really learned is what I want and what most women want is to keep our bones, our brains, and our heart stronger longer, right? And basically enable us to live healthier for a longer period of time. And the research is increasingly showing that hormone replacement therapy can be a very good component of that. So there is emerging research that ties hormone replacement therapy to brain health and to bone health and to cardiovascular health. So they see that as women's hormones go down, it increases the risk of having a heart attack, for example. So can you use hormone replacement therapy to reduce the risk of a heart attack? Research is needed there, but there is emerging evidence on that. So the what I have come to learn is that MIDI is a longevity company. It's not what we thought we were building. But if I give you hormone replacement therapy, and if you're overweight and I give you a GLP-1 and I help you to exercise and suggest that you exercise and I get you to sleep, that's longevity. So, right? Like that is the building blocks of longevity for women's health is going to be probably HRT and GLPs. And then you're going to add sleep and exercise, and that's going to take you a long ways. Starting in May, we're going to add blood tests. So everyone who wants to come in can get a blood test so we can start tracking your markers better and making sure that, if there are other things that you are lacking, that we can help you with that too. But that's how we are thinking about longevity.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. Joanna, like, I still feel like, and I'm also trying to figure out how much of this is because I am now middle aged, late middle age, hearing this. I feel like no one was talking about this stuff. And I get the sense from talking to my mom. Like, I asked my mom, like, what was it like when you went through menopause? And she was sort of like, meh.
Really?
But there was some sort of stigma about talking about this stuff. And again, like somebody explained what perimenopause was, and all these light bulbs started going off. What why has there been a stick? Why haven't people been talking about this? And I'm even thinking through like longevity too. It feels like as women, the only thing people talk about is dye your hair and get a facelift. But like, are we
Yeah.
being more accepting? Like, why? It's so great that this is happening, right? As Layla and I hit the right age, but why was there a stigma, and why do we get to talk about it now?
So unfortunately, I think there is an odd stigma still around perimenopause. I'll talk to women in their early 40s and they're clearly going through perimenopause. They just don't, it's like, it's still a bad word. But I'm like, okay, longer, stronger, longevity. Like they're, oh, okay, I'll do that. So like it's the same friggin' thing, right? But instead with a different word. And I think we need to think about like what is the stigma about perimenopause? My theory has been, this is my own theory, that number one, if you think that people are going to perceive you differently because you're in perimenopause and therefore seen as old and unable to succeed in society, then you don't want to talk about it. And there was a Harvard Business School study that said that when women were experiencing menopausal symptoms at work, um, they were seen as less important at work and they were seen as less valuable members of their team and less of leaders. When they were getting treatment for it and they called out that, oh, that was brain fog and I'm treating it, they regained their power. And so what is very important, I think, if you understand that, is we've got to be willing to say, I forgot a client's name. That was brain fog. Not a problem. I'm fixing it. Right? As opposed to, oh, it's a problem because I'm getting old and there's nothing I can do about it. So I think it's that main mind shift that if you know you can fix something, you're much more likely to talk about it. If you can't fix it, you're going to be really scared and you're not going to want to talk about it.
It is funny, like being able to talk about it. I mean, I know, Layla and I kind of came up together, similar career, same company for a lot of years. And I think we both felt as women leaders kind of, or I felt a responsibility to talk about being a mother.
Yeah, right,
Because, which I think, 10 years before was like, don't ever talk about your
right.
kids. But I wanted to normalize it for the women that like, no, you can do this. And you can also like acknowledge that you have this other life and draw boundaries. And it was, I think it was part of what we felt responsibility for as working mothers to normalize it for the next generation before. And I think what I'm hearing now is now we got to be the menopause broads. We got to be the princesses of menopause and go and normalize it even further so that, the ladies behind us will feel that they can get treatment and that there will be better treatment by their peers at work.
And there are crazy stats too, right? Of women in menopause and perimenopause dropping out of the workforce and just being like, I can't, and not explaining these symptoms and not even understanding that the symptoms are symptoms, like thinking, oh my gosh, I'm having dementia, or I'm like, and no, you're just having like hormonal surges that are messing you up. But that, I mean, that's a real thing. A lot of people drop out because of menopause and are just like, I'm done. And it shouldn't be the end unless you want it to be the end, right? I mean, it should
Right.
be something like anything you can manage and
So
kind
I
of
think
like
as long
that.
as you know you can manage it, and I think that is the key factor here. I mean, so when I was in perimenopause, I mean, it was 10 years ago when it kind of started, and I didn't know the name. I really didn't know the name. And I was forgetting everything. And I was forgetting client names, and I was losing my car in the parking lot. And I was really getting nervous that I was getting early onset Alzheimer's. And I mean, as an aside, my grandfather died of Alzheimer's, but also he had 10 years of not knowing who his family was. And so that is something that I was very scared of. And permeates, that memory permeates. So I have a friend, Ellie, who runs a company called NeuroTrack, and she actually has developed a test for early onset Alzheimer's. So she comes over to my house one night, and it was very early in her test, and she shows up and she's like, okay, Joanna, we're going to give you this test, right? And we do the test, and I did not have Alzheimer's.
Yay!
And
Yay!
what a relief,
Yeah.
right? So that to me is actually like, it was the relief that I felt of like, I'm going to be okay. Now, it still took me 2 years before someone was able to say, okay, this is perimenopause, and let's get you on hormones so that you can sleep again at night.
Feel better. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That is so interesting because one thing that's so interesting to me is like once perimenopause was explained to me, I was like, oh, and it's also such a huge range of symptoms. And I've kind of been obsessed by this like meme, which is like, is it depression? Is it anxiety? Is
right.
it ADHD? And it's like when you're a woman and let's say you're 40, 42, and you're
Assume
like,
it's menopause.
is that, I mean, but is that safe? Is it like, life is kind of tough right now. Maybe I'm budging into depression. Is it like, nope, if you're that age and you're a check perimenopause first. Is that sort of
That's what I think. Yes.
that's the advice?
That is my feeling. Honestly, like I think that every marriage therapist, before you have any marriage therapy, should sit down with you and say, let's see if this is perimenopause. And then we'll work on your marriage. Because how many people go to marriage therapy to talk about painful sex or lack of desire for sex or lack of libido or just being angry at your spouse all the time and not really knowing why? Like it all can be tied together. So I think that like every marriage therapist needs to say, we're happy to deal with your marriage therapy, but let's try hormones.
First.
I
So
love that.
I love that too. I actually think there's a lot to that because I do. I mean, the number of my friends who are like, I don't want to have sex anymore. I mean, not my personal situation, but I'm like, it's there are a lot of people
A
saying
lot of
that, and
people.
I'm like, that can't be good for long-term marriage
Oh my
satisfaction.
God, I can tell you another story. So I was talking about this guy recently, and he said, well, I'm in the process of getting divorced. I was at a party, and he's like, I'm in the process of getting divorced. And my wife and I haven't had sex for 16 years. And
What?
um, and I said to him, uh, do you think that it could possibly be related to perimenopause? And he's like, what's that? And I kind of explained it to him, and he's like, wow, like, really? Like, he almost started to cry. He was like, really? Like, uh, He's like, maybe my marriage didn't have to fall apart, you know?
Oh,
It's very sad.
That's very
yeah,
sad.
that
Also,
is.
Joanna, you go to a lot of parties, is what
No,
I'm
only
getting
work
from this.
parties. Every
Okay,
work
because
party I go
and
to, every time I leave the house, it's just people wanting to talk about menopause.
I was going to say, people are like, "Would you like a glass of wine?" And they're like, "Let me tell
No.
you about my sex life, Joanna. I
Exactly.
have a lot to complain about."
It's a lot different than being asked questions about software. Let me tell you, not nearly as
Yes.
exciting. Not nearly as
Very fair.
exciting.
You did, talk a lot about, not talk about, you alluded to sleep. And like I told you, that's one of my biggest things.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question that is probably not an appropriate question, but why can't I drink red wine anymore?
You know what? It does ruin, like, no more wine for me at all. I don't
Why
feel
not?
that
So
anymore.
why is it wine? And I'm not, I know
Yeah.
alcohol intake is, we need to be careful, and it's
Oh, yeah, you're not
worse
supposed
than
to
we
drink
thought.
alcohol altogether. Do you not know that?
Right, but realistically, like Layla and I are middle-aged moms, like we drink alcohol.
We drink.
Yes.
Why is wine become such a problem? And is there any level of hormone I could get to where I could enjoy a nice Barolo again?
I don't think so.
Seriously?
Well, so no. So my mother says that for like 10 years she couldn't drink, and now she likes drinking wine every night again. So like I'm optimistic that it's just a hormone shift and it'll come back. But now I just drink like 2 sips and I get a headache and I just want to go to sleep. That's a
Terrible. Me
hormone thing.
too.
And hopefully it will get better, but that is a hormone thing.
It's sad because, it's funny. I think about, Layla and I are both, plus minus 50. And it's like, when I think of women in their 50s, like there's so much vitality. There's so much. And like, these are women who like, our kids are old enough that we can be a little less tied to the home. And it feels like our bodies are kind of trying to say like, sorry, it's time to crumble to dust and go off on the ice flow. I mean, is this just like evolution? We weren't supposed to, like we had our kids who were supposed to be gone. I mean, why are our bodies doing
I
this
actually
to us?
don't feel that. I have to say,
Okay.
other than the not drinking thing, I have a lot of energy. So I think it's partially that I'm also trying testosterone. I don't know if you're trying testosterone, but I think
we want to get into that. I do want to hear about testosterone next.
I think it's giving me more energy. So I'm pretty confident of that. So I would suggest trying that. But I'm lifting weights for the first time in my life, and that is feeling good. So I don't know that I feel like my whole body is falling apart. I was actually before I was on the hormones, and
well, that's the thing. The hormones have
now
kind
I
of
feel
changed
like
it.
I could actually I have much more optimism now that I could be successful at 70 than I did when I was in my late 40s.
I love that. That's how it should be. And I actually feel pretty strong and pretty good too. I'm taking all the hormones I can get my hands on, right? But the not drinking, just the not being able to get a little into an altered state every now and then can be a little bit challenging, especially when you've leaned on that for most of your adult life to sort of make it. But I have noticed and the sleep thing too. I agree with Julie. I've never slept this well. Like maybe when I was a kid, but who remembers that, right? But to the testosterone point, that was added into my regime relatively not so long ago, like in the last couple of months, because we check the levels and all that stuff. But so what's your take on that and kind of how that all plays together?
So testosterone is proven for low libido, but there is emerging research, and I'm always careful to separate out proven versus emerging research, but there's emerging research that it has benefits to mood and to bone strength. And so I don't know, I've been trying it. I think it is helping my mood a bit. So I am I might try to test everything. If you come to our office, there's gummies of all types in the office. Come try a gummy. Would you like a magnesium gummy, or would you like a calm gummy, or would you like a protein gummy, or tell me what you want. But I'm trying to try everything and learn, and that's really but I really want to understand the science between each of these things. I do know that there is an increase in research on women and THC. I don't think there's enough really good data that it's specifically good for this, but there is emerging research on that too, and also on CBD and CBN, which is another ingredient in hemp that people like. Yeah. So, right. So
2 thumbs up for CBN. Yeah.
let's try the things. My job at MIDI is to do the research and to have people do all the research and then to tell you, here's what works. And then you choose. Like, I really believe our job is to give you all the options. I'm no judgment here. Like, I want to give you the options and I want you to understand here are the things you can do to feel better. We actually, we're coming out with a fiber in the summer because women don't take enough fiber and we know how important fiber is. And it's going to have a little berberine in it so it can help you lose weight, but it's also like going to make you feel full and help you to poop better. So like, we're just like going to try to make things that benefit women. But that's really my job, right? Is to just figure out all the different things that can benefit.
Your job
Joanna,
is fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. And thank you, by the way, because I did have to admit to a nutritionist we had on a prior episode that I take all my vitamins in gummy form.
Gummies, right?
Yeah. And she was a little like, and I was like, I need candy. So this is what I do. But I appreciate you being, she wasn't anti-gummy, but she was
I'm
a little
pro-gummy.
disturbed. Thank you for being pro-gummy. I think what's so great is, some of the stuff you alluded to, it's so easy to go deep on hormones and those are such a critical part. And again, such a shift given some of the stigma of the past. But you've alluded to some other things like weightlifting, like fiber, testosterone. What are some other things that like women of a certain age should be incorporating into, whether it's supplements or lifestyle, that we should be thinking? I hear about soy, I hear about protein. Like, what are the things that you think make the biggest difference?
So, I mean, I do think fiber and protein are super important, right? And we came up of an age where I think we were a little more scared of protein, right? Like we were
all fat free.
Right?
Low fat, sugar free.
Low fat, sugar free. So I'm having to train my brain to eat more protein. I still can't eat red meat. Like I think but I eat a lot of chicken now, a lot more chicken. I try to load up with chicken. Protein, and then honestly, the emerging research on GLP-1 microdosing. So, I actually believe
What's that?
What is that? The GLP-1s are the weight loss medications.
Oh,
right?
we know. Yeah. On it.
Great. So we know that it helps with weight loss. There is emerging evidence that it really helps with inflammation, which helps reduce Alzheimer's, which helps. I think that my guess is that you're going to see the two biggest longevity drugs for women is HRT and GLPs. And so I think there's going to be emerging interest in microdosing, so small doses of GLPs. We don't know yet how much is necessary to get your brain the protection and to get your body the protection. But I think you're going to see that people who are on it get a lot of benefits, not just weight loss related. And so I'm really interested in that too, and making sure that we will stay on top of that research and then be able to offer that to our patients too.
So that's not available yet, but it's being studied, or I'm guessing off-label. There's people already doing it. Okay.
It is crazy, the GLP-1. So I'm clearly taking it for weight loss, but I just met with my doctor before this. She's like, all of your levels are down.
Right.
Like everything's across the board. Inflammation is down. Right. Your pre-diabetes is like everything. So clearly, and we were talking to someone else on the podcast recently, and I was saying, are these safe? Like, should we be worried? And she was like, they've been around for 20 years.
Exactly.
Like we have 20 years worth of research on these drugs from people using them and seeing good effects.
I could read you the text. If I just read you the text that I got today from people saying how incredibly grateful they are I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in 4 years and I cried. I was so happy. That was this morning. She's like, I can't believe that it took so long for me to get here. And I'm so grateful that you're offering me this product. I got one yesterday in the middle of a meeting. You're going to love this. You ready? First orgasm in 4 years. Thank you.
Wait, from GLP-1 or from no? Okay, I was going to say
vaginal estrogen. Yeah, I'm literally sitting in a meeting with an investor in this cups, but first orgasm in 4 years. Thank you.
You have a great job, dude. Your job is so much better than mine was. That's crazy.
Did you show the investor? Were you like?
I just started laughing. It was like she put all these little hearts in it and like a target. It was very funny.
So I just wanted to kind of ask you, like, What is something you do every day that you learned from this foray into like drilling deep? Like we talked about, the medicines and everything, but there's just some, like, do you wake up and do some breathing routine, or do you have anything, like what's
Gratitude journal.
Yeah, no
anything?
gratitude, no journal. But I do try to do gratitude. I do gratitude is big for me actually. Um, I mean, the things that I do to keep my sane, I go for a lot of walks. So like if I don't walk, how I process myself is by walking. And so I spend a lot of time going on walks. I also am quite convinced by our estrogen face cream. Uh, so the, I know. So basically the research has always shown that if you put estrogen in your vagina, it strengthens the wall of your vagina and makes it moister. And so sex is pleasurable, or it doesn't hurt. So there was emerging research on estrogen in a face cream in a little bit weaker version. And in the 50s and 60s, it used to be in all the face creams. If you go
What?
back and look at old ads, estrogen used to be in the face creams. And of course, it said, look beautiful for your husband, use this cream. And there was research then that showed that basically it was doing the same kind of thing for your skin, where it was thickening the epidermis and making it moister. So we went into that research and we said, oh, wow, we can make this. So now we make it for our patients, and you can order it. And it really works. Like, so I don't know, like, I'm not trying to sound like a ad for this, but like, I really look better. So, I mean, I don't care much about beauty. You can see I don't wear makeup, but I'm really quite convinced that using this cream has made my face look better. So that's my one like beauty tip.
That's a good one. I love that.
Really good one.
Yeah.
That is
And
a good one.
I mean, it's so funny. It's hard to separate sort of MIDI, the company, and all the opportunities and adjacencies you guys might have, starting with hormones and weight loss, but also beauty, to also just think about it like as women who are prioritizing our health in a different way than we ever had before, thinking about all the other things you should be doing. I mean, again, we've talked on and touched on weightlifting, but like, is that the next thing that we should all be doing with our friends / MIDI will start offering, is like, here's how you weightlift as a 50 something woman to maintain bone density, mobility, and strength for the rest of their life. There's so many things to think about.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I don't know when we will offer that, but I do think that's a great thing to do with friends and to try to, and you're getting to friends. Friends are a good method for longevity, right? Like the basics of longevity are probably exercise, sleep, community, estrogen.
Protein, fiber,
Protein,
matcha,
fiber, estrogen. Yes, exactly.
Turmeric. Like, I mean,
But those are lower. Don't worry so much about the matcha and the turmeric if you like those. I want to get to the basics, right? Everything else is kind of extra. That's why I try to like keep it as simple as possible.
Totally.
Are any of these things gonna, I mean, just again to the longevity, and I know we're nearly at time, but like, is there going to be different advice for us when we're 65, 70? Like, what is there going to be like now at this age, again, not thinking about living to being 150, but to be great from 70 to 90 or however long we're lucky enough to live. Do you know yet, or do you have an eye of what those different things might be that we should focus on then?
So here's what I'm going to say, which is not going to be, it's good for us. It is never too early to start working for these things. We might also say it's never too late, because you can add all these things later. But if you add them in your 40s, the likelihood of being healthy in your 70s is so much higher. So absolutely, there is research that shows you can start exercising in your 70s and strengthen your bones, right? But hormone replacement therapy makes it so your bones do not disintegrate, okay? You want to do that before your bones start to disintegrate, right? So you're not catching up. So what I think about a lot is what I can urge women to do in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, so they're healthier in their 80s, their 70s and 80s. Even in your 70s and 80s, you can take estrogen and you can exercise. It's just that the benefits you get younger are so significant that, ideally you start young.
Yeah. So we're doing this the rest of our lives. Like some version of the regimens that we're adopting now should be what carry us through and keep us healthy forever.
Yeah, that's right.
I have a friend who listening to the podcast, and she's already through menopause and she didn't take any hormones, right? Because GP was like, no, you're fine. She lives in a small town. And she was asking me, she's like, should I start taking them now? And I was like, well, I'm not a doctor, dude, but yes, I think you should call someone and start taking them. So I think that's an illusion too, that people are like, well, I didn't take it, so I'm kind of screwed, or that's not the case. Like,
That's not the
people,
case.
this is a regime.
No, and this is where the longevity argument is super important. People say, well, I'm not having a lot of symptoms, so I don't need to take hormones. But they're underestimating the power of prevention. And they're underestimating that even if they're not having a lot of symptoms, their estrogen is still going down. Estrogen going down is what puts you at higher risk for brain issues, what puts you at higher risk for heart issues, what puts you in higher risk for your bones disintegrating. So you want to be proactive younger, so that you don't have to be in the position, that of having to catch up. You can catch up, but you would prefer not to.
Right. That makes
Layla,
sense.
I'm laughing because, like, again, maybe it's just since we started this podcast, I had a friend call me and ask if she should go on hormones.
Yeah, all the time.
But this friend called me. Her doctor told her she should go on hormones, and she's like, "Next step, call Julie. I have an MBA, but not an MD." So, going back to you, Joanna, and the business that you've started, I think there's a reason that we need a place like MIDI for people to talk to medical professionals, as opposed to idiots like me and Layla asking whether or not they should go on hormones.
Well, it shows that people don't know where to go, right? Like, we don't have a place. I don't know. Do you remember reading, did you read of Room of One's Own in college? Mm-hmm. So she writes about a dinner party. First of all, she writes about women needing their own money, which I obviously believe in. But then she writes about a dinner party, the men's dinner party and the women's dinner party. And at the men's dinner party, it's this fancy table, beautiful feast, and they're talking about philosophy, right? At the women's table, they're talking about getting more food. And this is so applicable to women's health, right? Like, the research has gone into men, and the men have had all the money and all the research. And so they're thinking about living to 150. Right. And like, we're just like scrounging to get the research done so I can prove to you that taking testosterone is going to be good for your mood, or that, taking estrogen is going to help your brain. And because the issue is, when I use the words emerging, right, it's because this medical society has decided it's not enough research yet because they don't have 50 years of data. Well, 50 years ago, no one was researching anything about women at all. So there isn't 50 years of data. So we need to make some hypotheses, and then we need to let women try and see if they feel good.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think we can end it on anything better than that, right?
I was going to say, that was great. That, and please do not come to Julie Legal or Layla Secca for medical advice.
Yeah, please.
No, look, if they come to you for medical advice, just tell them go to MIDI.
We are.
Yeah.
Joanna, that was super insightful, and I just want to thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
You built a company in the tech space that is not about topics that those boys like to talk about very much, and you're crushing it as well. You should, and you're helping so many people. You're helping all of us to just figure out how to dialogue about this and how to find our way through it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times Julie talks about that patch. I mean,
how do I keep it clean? Well, yeah, no. So I switch it twice a week. We're going to do this. I'm not going to show it to you, but it gets a little, and I work out every day, so I'm sweating, and maybe I shower, but is there any way to not have a brown ring of it by day 3? And then I take it off and I scrape my skin, and I mean, it's exfoliated now.
Acetate to get it, like if it leaves the little ring when you take it off.
Like nail polish remover?
No. There's some, there's some like alcohol or something you can use to take off the little ring around it. But
maybe all the wine I can't drink anymore, I can use it now to scrub my belly when I take off my patch. I was hoping,
who was it? One of the women in Operator Collective was Dawn Dobros, who was the CEO of Credo. She was suggesting to me that we try to make our own blue little patches in heart circles, so you could have it like a tattoo, right?
Like a tattoo.
Instead of it like hiding and looking a little dirty, you could have like a patch tattoo.
You could do shamrocks for Mars.
Exactly.
And, trees and Stars of David for Christmas and Hanukkah.
Right? Wouldn't that be fun to have like multicolored patches?
I like that.
Amazing.
That'd be a good idea.
Well, as Layla said, Joanna, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
this
starting
was
MIDI.
so
And
fun.
you know what? It's not just about access. I just also want to say it's also about stigma. It's like
Yeah.
people are scared to say to their doctor because they don't know where their doctor
Right.
falls on this. And just knowing you can go to the service, it's virtual, it's easy. And this is, one of the things they're set up to do. It's great. So thank you for
Yeah,
joining us
thank you.
today for
This
starting
was fun.
MIDI. Everyone who's still with us, you can find a recap of all the information we talked about on our website at sideprojecthq.com. And you can learn more about MIDI, MIDI Health at joinmidi.com. Thank you.
Yay.